So I'm still shaking with rage as I type this, like literally, can't even think straight. 4 days ago, my entire life got flipped upside down and I'm just trying to process everything that happened. Some background. I've been working at this local auto shop since I was 18 while taking classes at community college for automotive tech. Not the fanciest career path, but I'm good with engines and it pays decent. My plan was always to finish my associates and then transfer to the state university for their mechanical engineering program. I've been saving every paycheck, putting away at least 60% into my college fund that my parents helped set up when I was a kid. By last month, I had about $23,000 saved up. Some from working through high school at different places, some from graduation money, but mostly from busting my ass at the shop for the past 4 years. My sister, Samantha, 19, is the golden child. Always has been. She's taking a gap year, aka sitting on her ass making TikToks, and started dating this guy Daniel, 24, about 6 months ago. This dude drives a leased BMW he can barely afford and talks nonstop about his business ventures and passive income streams, but never actually says what he does. Total wannabe entrepreneur who posts motivational quotes on Instagram, but literally has never held down a real job. My parents think he's amazing, though, especially my dad, who keeps saying Daniel has vision and thinks big. Meanwhile, I'm actually working and studying, and they act like I'm wasting my time. So Thursday, I'm at work under a Tacoma doing an oil change when my phone keeps buzzing. I ignore it until my break and then see like 5 notifications from my bank app. I open it and I literally thought I was going to pass out. My account balance is showing $427. $427. There were 3 separate withdrawals over the past 2 days, totaling almost $23K. I immediately call the bank thinking my identity got stolen, but the lady tells me the withdrawals were authorized with the proper ID and account info by the joint account holder. Joint account holder equals sign my dad. Apparently, he still had access because the account was set up when I was a minor. I leave work early, my boss Mac is cool, and let me go when he saw how freaked I was, and race home in my old Jeep Cherokee. I slam through the front door and my parents are sitting at the kitchen table with Daniel and Samantha looking at something on a laptop. I start demanding to know what happened to my money, and my dad gets all defensive saying they made an executive decision to reallocate funds for a family investment opportunity. My mom jumps in saying how Daniel found this amazing real estate opportunity where they could triple their investment in 6 months, and they needed to move fast. I'm standing there in my work clothes, still have grease on my hands, just staring at them like they've lost their minds. I ask if they're serious. That's my money. Money I worked for. And they just took it without even asking me? My dad stands up and gets in my face saying, I should be grateful they're putting the money to good use instead of wasting it on my useless degree. Says Daniel's investment will benefit the whole family and my little mechanic hobby isn't going to get me anywhere anyway. I tell them they need to return my money right now. And that's when things went completely insane. My mom starts screaming that I'm ungrateful, that I've always been jealous of Samantha, and that Daniel is going to be successful, while I'll always be a worthless piece of trash. My sister starts recording everything on her phone, laughing and saying she's finally documenting the family disappointment's meltdown. Daniel's just sitting there with this smug smile like he's enjoying the whole thing. I grab my dad's arm and tell him we're going to the bank right now to fix this. He shoves me, hard, and I stumble back into the wall. Then he tells me if I'm not grateful for what they're doing for the family, I can get out. My mom starts grabbing stuff from around the living room, my laptop, headphones, jacket, and throwing them into garbage bags. I'm yelling that they can't do this, it's my money, and my dad gets in my face and says, not anymore, it's not. Consider it Samantha and Daniel's investment in their future. At least they have potential. My sister is still filming, narrating the whole thing like, watch Brady lose his shit because mom and dad finally see he's a loser. I try to grab her phone, and my dad shoves me again, harder this time. Mom keeps throwing my stuff in garbage bags, screaming about how I've always been difficult and ungrateful, and how Daniel is more of a son to them than I am. Dad tells me Daniel is moving into my room tonight because he has actual ambition, and they need to support people who are going somewhere. I'm literally in shock at this point. These are my parents. The same people who came to my high school graduation and seemed proud when I got into college. Now they're acting like I'm nothing because Samantha's boyfriend showed them some investment PowerPoint? I go to my room to pack some clothes and my dad follows me, telling me I have 20 minutes to get my stuff and get out. When I get there, I see Daniel has already put some of his crap on my bed. He smirks and says, "Thanks for the upgrade, bro," as he walks past me in the hallway. As I'm throwing clothes in my backpack, I hear power tools from the front door. My dad is literally changing the locks. My sister is still filming, adding commentary like, Family Trash Removal Day. My mom keeps screaming about how I should be thanking them for investing my money instead of letting me throw it away. I grab what I can and head for the door. My mom throws the garbage bags of my stuff onto the front lawn and tells me, Don't come crawling back when you're homeless and broke. Several neighbors are outside watching this whole thing. I'm so humiliated I can barely breathe. I throw everything in my Jeep and just drive. No destination in mind. I end up at my grandpa's house, Dad's father, about 30 minutes away. He takes one look at me in the garbage bags and tells me to come inside. After I explain everything, he gets this weird look on his face, not just angry, but like he knows something. He asks me exactly when the account was set up and how old I was when my parents opened it. Then he asks if I've been making all the deposits since I turned 18. When I tell him yes, he nods and says, That's what I thought. Grandpa says I can stay with him as long as I need and we'll figure this out. Then he says something that makes me freeze. Your parents don't realize what kind of account they set up for you. That UTMA account legally became yours when you turned 21. What they did wasn't just wrong. It was illegal. I don't know what to do next, but Grandpa says he's making some calls tomorrow. I'm still in shock, but now I'm also furious. They stole from me, humiliated me, and threw me out. All for some scam that Daniel probably fed them. I don't just want my money back, I want them to regret ever choosing him over me. Update coming soon. Update 1. So first I gotta thank everyone for the insane support on my last post. Woke up at Grandpa's to like hundreds of comments and honestly reading them helped me realize I'm not crazy for being this pissed. Alright, so turns out when Grandpa said he was making some calls, he wasn't messing around. The morning after I posted, he walks into the guest room at like 7 a.m. and drops a folder on my bed. Inside was all this paperwork from when my parents set up my college fund. He'd kept copies of everything. The account was something called a UTMA, Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, account that Grandpa had actually pushed my parents to set up when I was 10. Get this, he contributed the first $5,000 as seed money. The most important part? These accounts legally become the property of the beneficiary, me, when they hit the age of majority, SOAS, which in our state is 21 for these accounts. I turned 21 last year in May. My dad had been a custodian of the account, but the moment I turned 21, it legally became 100% mine. Every withdrawal my dad made after my 21st birthday was literally theft, like actual legal theft. Grandpa was already making coffee when he dropped this bomb on me, and he tells me his buddy's son is a financial advisor who deals with this stuff. He'd already texted him screenshots of the account documents. The guy confirmed that what my parents did was completely illegal and the bank would have to investigate. I was still processing all this when my phone buzzes. Text from my mom acting all casual like nothing happened. Hope you've calmed down. Dad and I expect an apology for your behavior. Daniel's business opportunity is time-sensitive. We're meeting with his connection today to finalize everything. I don't even respond. Instead, I call the bank's fraud department. I'm on hold for what feels like forever, and then spend almost an hour explaining the situation to 3 different people. They tell me they need to escalate this to their investigation team, and I'll hear back within 48 hours. Feeling like that's moving way too slow, Grandpa suggests we go to the bank in person, so we drive to the main branch about 20 minutes away. The branch manager, this lady named Evelyn, takes us to her office after I show her my ID and account info. Grandpa brings the folder with all the documents. I explain everything, and Evelyn looks increasingly concerned. She steps out to make some calls, and when she comes back, she tells me they're putting an immediate freeze on the account while they investigate. She also advises me to file a police report for financial fraud. And I hesitate at first about involving the cops. Like, these are still my parents, even though they're being absolute trash humans right now. But Evelyn explains that having a police report will make it much easier to get my money back quickly. So we head straight to the police station. Filing the report was awkward AF. The officer kept asking if I was sure I wanted to do this to my own parents, like I'm the bad guy here. But I stick to my guns and file it. They give me a case number and say a detective might contact me. When we get back to Grandpa's, he makes a few more calls. Turns out he's been estranged from my dad, his son, for years, but kept in touch with my Uncle Rhett, Dad's brother. I'd always wondered why we rarely saw Grandpa or Uncle Rhett at family events. Mom and Dad always said they were difficult and unsupportive. The real story? Grandpa and Uncle Rhett had a falling out with my dad years ago over money. Apparently, Dad had borrowed a bunch of cash from both of them for some business opportunity. Sound familiar? And never paid it back. The only reason Grandpa stayed somewhat in touch was to make sure me and Samantha were okay. Uncle Rhett calls me directly and is like, This is exactly what your dad did to me in 2016. Took $15,000 for some real estate flip and I never saw a penny. He offers to help any way he can and suggests I check my credit report ASAP. So I pull my credit report online and holy shit, there are 3 credit cards opened in my name in the past 3 months that I know nothing about, all maxed out, totaling about $12,000. The addresses are listed as my parents' house. I literally punch a wall. My knuckles are still bruised as I type this. I immediately call the credit card companies to report fraud. They ask for police report numbers, which thankfully I already have. I also file an identity theft report on the FTC website like someone in the comments of my last post suggested. While I'm doing all this, my phone keeps blowing up with texts from Samantha. She's sending me screenshots of Daniel's investment opportunity, some garbage about flipping houses with no money down and guaranteed returns. It's so obviously a scam that I can't believe my parents fell for it. But then again, they've always thought the sun shines out of Daniel's ass. I don't respond to any of her texts. Instead, I call my boss Mac to update him on the situation and ask if I can pick up extra shifts. He's been really cool about everything and says to take whatever time I need, but the extra money would definitely help right now. That afternoon, the bank calls back. They've confirmed the UTMA account legally became mine when I turned 21, and my dad had no right to withdraw funds without my consent after that date. They're starting the process to recover the money, and as a precaution, they've frozen all accounts. My parents have at the bank pending investigation. I'm sitting there processing this info when Grandpa gets a call from my dad. Grandpa puts it on speaker so I can hear. Dad sounds pissed, demanding to know why he can't access any of his accounts. Grandpa plays dumb at first, then very calmly tells him that stealing from your own son has consequences. Dad starts screaming about how I'm ungrateful, how Daniel's investment is going to make everyone rich, how I've always been jealous of Samantha's success. What success? Making TikToks? Grandpa just listens, then says, "The bank doesn't freeze accounts for no reason. Maybe you should think about what you've done," then hangs up, stone cold. Later that night, my mom starts texting me. Her tone completely different now. She's asking what I've done, saying they need access to their money, that Daniel's contacts are waiting for the investment funds. I don't reply. I get a notification from my email that someone, guess who, tried to reset my password, then my Snapchat, then my Instagram. They're trying to get into all my accounts. I immediately change all my passwords and set up two-factor authentication on everything. Uncle Rhett calls again and suggests I send a formal demand letter for both the stolen funds and the fraudulent credit cards. He knows a paralegal who helps draft it for free. The letter lays out exactly what they did, how it was illegal, and demands full repayment of the $23,000 plus immediate payment of the credit card debt they racked up in my name. We send it certified mail so they have to sign for it. The day after it's delivered, Samantha posts a TikTok saying, "I'm trying to ruin the family and destroy her boyfriend's future because I'm jealous of their success." She has the nerve to say I should be grateful they invested my money instead of letting me waste it on school. The comments are roasting her though, which gives me some satisfaction. Daniel posts something on Instagram about haters trying to stop his grind and how real entrepreneurs face obstacles. It takes everything in me not to comment the truth. A week passes with no response to the demand letter. The credit card companies have started their fraud investigations. The bank says they're still working on recovering my money, but it could take time. I'm trying to stay patient, but it's hard. Then last night around 3 a.m., I wake up to someone pounding on Grandpa's front door, like aggressive knocking that shakes the whole house. I look out the window and see my parents' Subaru in the driveway, headlights still on. My mom, dad, and Samantha are at the door yelling my name. Grandpa grabs his phone and says he's calling the cops if they don't leave. I can hear my mom crying, saying they need to talk to me. It's an emergency. My dad is alternating between threats and pleading. Samantha is filming the whole thing on her phone because, of course she is. The neighbors' lights are turning on. It's a whole scene. Grandpa opens his bedroom window and tells them he's dialed 911, and they have 30 seconds to leave before he hits call. My dad starts yelling about how I've ruined everything, how Daniel's investors pulled out, how the bank won't talk to them. That's when I realize what's happening. Daniel's business opportunity fell through. The investors probably never existed, and now my parents can't access any of their money because of the fraud investigation. I grab my phone and start recording them from the window. My mom sees me and her whole demeanor changes. Suddenly she's crying and saying they're sorry, they made a mistake. Can we please talk? Dad is still alternating between anger and desperation. Samantha keeps filming, but she looks scared now. Grandpa actually does call the cops when they refuse to leave. By the time a patrol car pulls up, they're still there, still making a scene. The officer talks to them for a few minutes. Then they finally leave, tires screeching as they pull out of the driveway. I go back to bed but can't sleep. My phone has 67 missed calls and texts this morning, from all three of them. The messages range from apologetic to threatening to desperate. Apparently Daniel has disappeared, not answering calls. And suddenly all his social media accounts about his business are gone. I think they're starting to realize they got scammed, and now they want my help fixing it. Too bad I'm just getting started. Update 2. Okay, so first, wow at all your comments and messages. Some of you were literally predicting what would happen with scary accuracy, LOL. And yeah, I did end up letting my parents in that night, but only because the cops were basically forcing the issue, and my grandpa said it would look better for us legally if we attempted to resolve things civilly, or whatever. So picture this. It's now like 3:30 a.m. My parents and Samantha are sitting in Grandpa's living room looking like absolute hell. Mom's mascara is all over her face from crying. Dad hasn't shaved in days. And Samantha, who normally posts 5 perfectly filtered selfies a day, looks like she hasn't slept or showered in a week. Grandpa is sitting in his recliner like a judge, and I'm standing by the kitchen doorway with my arms crossed, refusing to sit down with them. Mom immediately starts with the waterworks, saying they made a terrible mistake and they're so sorry and they just want to make things right. Dad's nodding along, but he still has this look on his face like somehow this is all my fault. Samantha is just staring at the floor, still clutching her phone. I ask where Daniel is, and that's when things get interesting. Mom and Dad exchange this weird look, and Samantha starts crying. For real, not the fake crying she does in her videos when she's sharing her struggles or whatever. Turns out Daniel hasn't been answering any of their calls or texts for almost 2 days. The last time they saw him was when he went to meet with the investors with the rest of my money. I just laugh. Like, what did they expect? This dude shows up driving a leased BMW he can barely afford, talks big about passive income UDO without having a real job, and they just hand him $23,000 of my money, plus whatever else they gave him. And they're surprised he ghosted them. Dad gets defensive, saying Daniel showed them documentation, spreadsheets, property listings. Everything looked legitimate. The investment opportunity was supposedly buying foreclosed properties, fixing them up, and flipping them. Daniel claimed he had partners who'd already done this successfully in 3 other states. I ask if they ever actually met these partners or saw any of these supposedly successful property flips. The silence and embarrassed looks say everything. Then Grandpa speaks up, asking why they always favored Samantha so much that they'd steal from me to fund her boyfriend's schemes. That's when Mom completely loses it, starts sobbing uncontrollably. Dad tries to comfort her, but she pushes him away. Through the tears, Mom finally tells the truth. Samantha looks exactly like my grandmother, Dad's mom, who died when I was just a baby. Same eyes, same smile, same mannerisms, everything. Mom says every time they look at Samantha, they see Grandma Evelyn, who everyone adored. And me? Apparently, I remind them of Mom's brother, my Uncle Tegan, who caused their family nothing but trouble and died of an overdose when I was little. I'm standing there like, WTF? You've been treating me like crap my whole life because I look like someone? Dad jumps in, saying they didn't mean to favor Samantha, but they always worried I'd end up like Uncle Tegan, throwing my life away on dead-end jobs and bad choices. When I chose to work with cars and go to community college instead of the university they wanted, it confirmed their fears. Grandpa looks pissed. He says that's the most ridiculous thing he's ever heard, and that Tegan had serious mental health issues that were ignored by the family, not some character flaw. He says I'm nothing like Tegan except maybe being good with my hands. I'm just processing all this when Samantha finally speaks up. She admits she always knew Mom and Dad favored her, and she used it to get whatever she wanted. She says she knew deep down that Daniel was full of crap, but he made her feel special and important. She believed him because she wanted to, and she convinced Mom and Dad to believe him too. Dad interrupts, saying they need access to their accounts now because all their cards are being declined. They can't buy groceries, can't pay bills, nothing. He says if I don't drop the fraud claims, they might lose the house. That's when I totally lost it. I remind them how they threw my stuff in garbage bags, how they changed the locks, how they said I was worthless trash while Samantha live-streamed it, how they let Daniel sleep in my bed and told me not to come crawling back when I was homeless. Now, they're about to be homeless and they expect me to help. Mom starts crying harder, saying they were manipulated by Daniel, that he poisoned them against me. I call BS on that. Daniel might be a con artist, but he didn't make them steal my money or kick me out. They chose that all on their own. Grandpa suggests they start by telling us exactly how much money they gave Daniel in total. Dad hesitates. then admits it wasn't just my $23,000. They also gave him $15,000 from their savings, maxed out their credit cards, about $30,000, took out a HELOC, home equity line of credit, on the house for $50,000, plus the $12,000 from credit cards in my name. That's almost $130,000 total for a dude who's been dating Samantha for 6 months. I'm in shock. Samantha looks like she's gonna throw up. She says Daniel promised they'd buy a house together with some of the money once the investments started paying off. She starts scrolling through her phone, showing us all these fake documents and proposals he created. Gotta admit, they look pretty convincing if you don't know what to look for. Dad says they've tried to contact Daniel's parents, but the number he gave them is disconnected. They've gone to his apartment, but apparently he moved out 2 days ago. His social media accounts are either deleted or set to private. He's just gone. I ask if they've filed a police report for the money he took from them. Turns out they can't, because they willingly gave him the money based on false promises. It's considered a civil matter, not criminal fraud. Only the money taken from me and the credit cards in my name can be handled as actual fraud. Uncle Rhett calls during all this. It's like 4:30 a.m. at this point, but Grandpa had texted. Dad and Uncle Rhett haven't spoken in years, but Rhett talks to him now, on speaker. He's not sympathetic at all, reminding Dad how he warned him about get-rich-quick schemes after what happened with the money Dad borrowed from him. Dad just sits there taking it, which is something I've never seen before. The whole time, Samantha keeps checking her phone, hoping for a message from Daniel. I almost feel bad for her. Almost. Until I remember how she laughed while filming me getting thrown out. I ask her why she did that, and she breaks down completely, saying she was trying to impress Daniel. He apparently told her I was holding the family back and they'd all be better off without me. She believed him, because it was easier than admitting she was dating a fraud. As the conversation goes on, I learn more about Daniel's manipulation. He spent months working my parents, finding out their weaknesses, their financial situation, their dreams and regrets. He figured out they favored Samantha and used that. He learned about their disappointment in my career choice and used that too. He basically created the perfect con specifically for them. Around 5 a.m., Mom gets a notification on her phone. It's a charge from an ATM. Daniel just withdrew $500 from their joint account. He's in Florida, over 1,000 miles away. Dad tries to call the bank to freeze the account, but it's still too early. That's when Dad completely breaks down. Not just crying, like full-on panic attack, hyperventilating, the works. Turns out they can't make their mortgage payment that's due in 3 days. The home equity money, my college fund, their savings, it's all gone. If they can't figure something out fast, they'll lose the house. Samantha starts begging me to drop the fraud claim so they can access their accounts again. I remind her that's not how it works. The investigation has to be completed. Even if I wanted to help, which I don't, I can't just make it all go away. Grandpa suggests they talk to the bank about their situation and try to work out a payment plan. Dad says they already tried that, but with all their accounts frozen and the fraud investigation ongoing, the bank won't even discuss options with them. By 6 a.m., everyone's exhausted. Mom and Dad ask if they can crash at Grandpa's since they drove all the way here in the middle of the night. Grandpa reluctantly agrees they can use the pull-out couch, but makes it clear it's for one night only. As they're setting up the couch, Mom tries to talk to me privately. She says she knows they can't undo what they did, but they truly are sorry. Then she says something that shows she still doesn't get it. We were just trying to secure Samantha's future. You've always been more independent and capable than her. I tell her that's exactly the problem. They've spent so many years treating Samantha like she's special and me like I'm disposable that they can't even see how messed up their thinking is. I've been independent because I had to be. No one was securing my future. I was doing it myself, and they stole it. Before going back to bed, I tell them all that I'm not dropping the fraud claims, I'm not stopping the bank investigation, and I'm not giving them a dime of my money when I get it back. They made their choice, and now they can live with it. The next morning, they're gone before I wake up. Grandpa says they left around 7 a.m. without saying much. Over the next few days, the situation gets even worse. The bank confirms that Daniel drained what was left in my parents' joint account, about $3,200, through ATM withdrawals in 3 different states. He's clearly on the run. Samantha keeps texting me, alternating between begging for help and blaming me for making everything worse by involving the bank and police. Mom sends long emotional messages about families sticking together through hard times. Dad doesn't contact me at all. Uncle Rhett tells me that they've been calling him too, asking for loans. He's refused, but he did offer to help them sell their car to make the mortgage payment. Dad apparently told him to go to hell. Yesterday, I got an email from the bank. They've completed their initial investigation and confirmed that the withdrawals from my UTMA account were unauthorized. They're processing the return of my funds, which could take 5-10 business days. They're also removing the fraudulent credit cards from my credit report. I thought I'd feel better when I got this news, but honestly, I just feel tired. My family is falling apart not because of what I did, but because of what they did. And the worst part? Samantha posted a new TikTok last night where she's crying about being betrayed by the person she trusted most. Not talking about Daniel, though. She's talking about me. The comments are mostly calling her out, with people saying she can't play victim after what she did. But she's deleting those comments and only responding to the sympathetic ones. This morning, Mom texted saying they got a foreclosure notice. They have 30 days to bring the mortgage current or they lose the house. She asked if I would consider using some of my returned money to help them. I haven't responded yet. Part of me wants to tell them to figure it out themselves like I had to. Another part feels guilty, even though I know I shouldn't. But then I remember Daniel lounging on my bed, smirking and saying, "Thanks for the upgrade, bro," while my parents changed the locks to keep me out. So no, they chose him over me. They can live with that choice. Final update. First, thanks for all the support and advice on my previous posts. Things have been moving fast these past couple weeks and I'm still processing everything TBH. This situation went from bad to worse to completely nuclear, and I've been in the middle of it all. So I left off last time with my mom, asking if I'd use some of my returned money to help them save the house, and me basically not responding. I was torn between wanting them to face consequences and feeling weirdly guilty, even though I know I shouldn't. I talked to my boss Mac about it during a shift, and he said something that stuck with me. They didn't just take your money, they took your dignity too. What's that worth to you? That same afternoon, I got a call from the bank. My money, all $23,412.87 of it, had been returned to a new account they created for me. The fraud department also said they were adding $1,500 as compensation for the trouble. First good news in weeks. I had barely hung up when Grandpa got a call from my mom. She was hysterical, saying they just got an eviction notice. They had 14 days to vacate the house. Apparently, the mortgage company wasn't interested in working with them after they missed 2 payments and had all those fraud investigations tied to their accounts. Grandpa put the call on speaker so I could hear. Mom was begging him to talk to me about doing the right thing and not letting family end up on the street. Grandpa asked where Dad was, and Mom said he was making arrangements, whatever TF that means. Then she dropped a bomb. Daniel had contacted Samantha. Yeah, you read that right. After ghosting them for weeks, Daniel suddenly texted Samantha saying he was sorry, that the investment deal went bad, but he was working on getting some of the money back. He claimed he was in Texas with business associates trying to salvage what he could. And the most insane part? Samantha believed him. She showed Mom the texts and was all excited about Daniel fixing everything. Mom sounded skeptical for once, but said Samantha was adamant that Daniel was legit and would come through. I literally laughed out loud. The dude steals $130K from them and disappears, then sends a few texts, and Samantha's ready to welcome him back with open arms? Grandpa just shook his head. Mom kept pushing about me helping with the house situation. Grandpa firmly told her that after what they did to me, they had no right to ask for anything. Mom started crying, saying they made a terrible mistake and they'd do anything to make it right. I decided to go see them in person. Not to help, but to get some closure and make sure they understood exactly what they'd done. So the next day, I drove to their house. My key obviously didn't work anymore since they'd changed the locks. So I had to ring the doorbell like a visitor at my own childhood home. Dad opened the door looking like absolute hell. Unshaven, bags under his eyes, wearing the same shirt I'd seen him in at Grandpa's days earlier. The house was a mess. Boxes everywhere, stuff piled up, like they'd started packing but given up halfway through. I walked in and saw Mom sorting through photo albums at the dining table. She jumped up when she saw me, clearly thinking I'd come to save the day with my returned money. The hope in her eyes actually made me angry all over again. Samantha was on the couch glued to her phone as usual. She barely looked up when I came in. I noticed she'd dyed her hair, probably trying to change her appearance after getting roasted in her TikTok comments. I didn't beat around the bush. I told them I got my money back, but I wasn't giving them a cent. Not after they threw me out like trash, changed the locks, and let Daniel sleep in my bed. Dad started getting defensive, saying they made one mistake after years of supporting me. I pulled out my phone and played the video Samantha had live-streamed of them throwing my stuff in garbage bags and calling me worthless. Mom flinched when she heard her own voice saying I was a pathetic excuse for a son. Dad tried to grab my phone, but I pulled back. He said Samantha had deleted that video. I told him nothing ever really gets deleted from the internet. One of her followers had saved it and sent it to me after my last Reddit post blew up. I never actually posted their names or the video, but they don't need to know that. Mom started crying again, shocking, I know, saying they were desperate. They were about to lose everything. Did I really want that on my conscience? I asked if they thought about my situation when they left me homeless with garbage bags of belongings. Dad had the nerve to say that was different because I had options and they knew I'd be okay. That's when I laid out exactly what I was willing to do. I wasn't giving them money, but I had talked to the detective handling my case and the bank fraud department. If they signed a formal admission of what they'd done, taking my money illegally and opening fraudulent credit cards in my name, I wouldn't press further charges. The bank would still require repayment, but they wouldn't face criminal prosecution. Dad immediately refused, saying he wouldn't sign anything that could be used against him. Mom looked torn, probably realizing this was the best offer they were going to get. While they were arguing about it, Samantha's phone rang. She answered, and her eyes went wide. It was Daniel. She put him on speaker, probably thinking he was calling with good news about recovering the money. Instead, Daniel sounded panicked. He said he was sorry, but the investors had screwed him over and the money was gone. All of it. He kept saying he really thought it would work out, that he never meant to hurt anyone. Samantha asked where he was, and he hesitated before saying he was back in the city but staying with a friend. Dad grabbed the phone and started screaming threats at Daniel. Daniel hung up. Samantha tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. Her face just crumpled. That's when I realized something. Daniel might actually be dumb enough to come back to town thinking he could smooth things over. I asked Samantha to text him, saying she wasn't mad and wanted to meet up to talk things through. She refused at first, but Mom convinced her it might be their only chance to get any money back. Samantha sent the text. A few minutes later, Daniel responded, suggesting they meet at a coffee shop downtown the next day. I immediately called the detective handling my fraud case and told him about the meeting. He said they'd have plainclothes officers there. The next day, Samantha went to meet Daniel, with me following a few cars behind. Sure enough, he showed up looking nervous but still somehow confident, like he could talk his way out of anything. He hugged Samantha when he saw her, and they sat down at an outdoor table. I watched from my car as they talked for about 10 minutes. Then the detective and another officer approached the table. Daniel looked confused, then panicked. He tried to run, but another officer was waiting by the exit. They didn't handcuff him or anything dramatic, just escorted him to a police car while he protested that it was all a misunderstanding. Samantha came to my car afterward, crying but also looking weirdly relieved. She said Daniel had spun this whole story about investors double-crossing him, but admitted he'd spent some of the money on himself. A new laptop, clothes, a trip to Florida. She asked if I hated her for everything, and I told her I didn't hate her, but I wasn't ready to forgive her either. I drove her home, and we sat in the driveway for a while, talking. For the first time, Samantha admitted how much she'd always relied on our parents' favoritism and how she'd used it to get whatever she wanted. She said she'd convinced herself that I was fine with it because I never complained, but deep down, she always knew it was wrong. When we went inside, Mom and Dad were waiting anxiously for news. Samantha told them Daniel had been taken in for questioning. Mom broke down completely, sobbing that their lives were ruined. Dad just sat there staring at nothing. I told them they needed to sign the admission statement if they wanted any chance of avoiding worse consequences. After a long silence, Dad finally nodded. I had the documents in my car. The detective had prepared them. They both signed. Over the next few days, more details came out. The police searched Daniel's friend's apartment and found about $8,000 in cash hidden in his duffel bag, all that was left of the $130,000. They also found fake business cards, brochures for the non-existent investment company, and a laptop with templates for creating fake financial documents. My parents had to vacate the house as planned. They're staying with Mom's sister for now. Most of their stuff is in storage, and they're trying to sell whatever they can to start paying back the HELOC and credit card debt. Their credit is destroyed, and they'll probably have to declare bankruptcy. Samantha moved in with a friend from her cosmetology program. Turns out she was actually doing something during her gap year. She deleted all her social media accounts after the whole thing blew up in her comments section. She texts me occasionally, mostly just checking in or sending memes like we used to before all this happened. As for me, I got an apartment near campus with my returned money and some help from Grandpa. I'm transferring to the State University in the fall for their mechanical engineering program like I always planned. Grandpa insisted on helping with tuition so I can focus on studying instead of working full-time. Uncle Red and I have gotten pretty close through all this. He's been where I am, betrayed by my dad over money, and he's helped me process everything. He told me that maintaining some distance from my parents is healthy, not selfish. Mom still texts me almost daily, alternating between guilt trips and updates on their situation. Dad hasn't reached out at all since I made them sign the admission statement. I'm not blocking any of them, but I'm not going out of my way to help either. The detective called yesterday to say Daniel took a plea deal. He'll serve some time, not much, and have to pay restitution, though no one expects to see that money. The fraud charges related to my accounts have been settled, and my credit score is slowly recovering. People keep asking if I'm sad about how everything turned out, but honestly, I'm not. I'm relieved. For years, I felt like I was crazy for noticing how differently they treated me and Samantha. Now everything's out in the open. No more pretending we're a perfect family. No more being the difficult son who just needs to try harder. Sometimes the best revenge isn't something you do. It's just watching people face the natural consequences of their actions while you move forward with your life. And that's exactly what I'm doing. This is my final update. Thanks for all the support, advice, and validation. You guys helped me stay strong when I was doubting myself.